Welcome to We Are Women Unapologetically, the podcast that talks about the good, bad, ugly, and awesome. Careers, life transitions, confidence, and everything in between. Because shift happens, but you don't have to do it alone.
So tell me about yourself. 5 little words that can make any professional woman's stomach do backflips. You're able to close multi-million-dollar deals, lead global teams, and beat unbelievably close deadlines. But yet, those 5 words make you want to curl in a ball. My name is Jessica Cumming, and welcome to We Are Women Unapologetically. Today, we're going to be talking about who you really are beyond your career. And why is this so important? Did you know that 68% of women report feeling a loss of identity during a career transition? That's more than 2/3 of us that have gone through career transitions. So today we're going to be tackling it head on because we want to be able to answer the question, who am I besides my career title? Here's what's fascinating. When women look at transforming their careers, they don't just pivot jobs, they transform their life with work completely. I experienced this firsthand when I was let go from Dell. That had been my identity for nearly close to 20 years. And then the reality set in. If I'm no longer a project manager for Dell Technologies, who am I? So today what we're going to be doing is we are going to be talking about the psychology behind why so many brilliant and accomplished women feel lost during a career transition. And I'm going to share the exact framework that not only helped me, but has helped hundreds of other women successfully pivot and reconnect with core values while going through a career transition. So here's my promise to you. By the end of this podcast today, you're going to have clarity on who you are separate from your job and what you do. And trust me, that distinction changes everything. You'll walk away with concrete exercises in order to rediscover your identity, practical scripts to introduce yourself without your job title, and a completely new framework for thinking about your value in the world. If you've caught yourself defining your worth by your job title, or you have contemplated a change, but you are scared of losing your professional identity, this episode is for you. Before we get started, I want to share with you a personal story about my identity crisis that happened. I was at Dell nearly 20 years, and the first time I had to reintroduce myself after no longer being at Dell, it hit me like a freight train. I stumbled through it. I said all the wrong things, and it knocked me on my feet. I did not know how to introduce myself. I thought that building skills or building a network or keeping a network were going to be the hardest parts, but no, it was literally trying to figure out who I was. I was at a summit for women in tech, and I introduced myself as Jessica Cumming. I was recently let go from Dell Technologies after nearly 20 years, and now I had started my own business. Yep, I completely bombed it. But it didn't take me long to think about that first time. And because I was there for a couple of days, it gave me the opportunity to practice in my head and out loud who I was. And so that's what I'm going to share with you today, because you are so much more than your job title. Your job title does not define your worth. It does not define who you truly are. And that rediscovery that happened for me during that conference is exactly the journey that I'm going to walk you through today. Because I know so many of you are just like I was. You are so phenomenal at what you do that your job title has become your identity. But today we're going to break free of it. In order for you to be able to make a successful pivot into the role you want to go into next and who you want to become, not who you are today or not who you were in the past. I want to start out by talking about the psychology of work identity. And in order to do this, I want to start by understanding or helping you understand why this happens to so many of us, especially as professional women. Research from the Harvard Business Review said that 76% of professional women combine their personal and professional identities so closely that they're almost inseparable. But why is this? First, there's what psychologists call the identity fusion. And this is because we pour so much time, energy, emotion, and talent into our careers that the boundaries of our professional and personal lives become blurred. And oftentimes, women say that they feel like they have to work and do work twice as hard as men in order to prove themselves, that our careers become more than our jobs. They become the proof of our value. Second, our social circles often revolve around our professional careers. Think about it. How many of your friends on Facebook are through work? How many of your best friends, the ones that are now in your tribe, are people that you met through work? There was a study done by Columbia University that said 62% of professional women say that their social connections are tied to their careers. So when we contemplate changing careers, we're not just changing professions. We're literally looking at potentially changing or losing our personal circle as well. Third, there is the achievement factor. Many of us have been collecting those gold stars since kindergarten, straight A students, and thrived on external validation. Ultimately, our careers ended up becoming those gold stars and external validation. Promotions, awards, recognition, all of those things. So now that the thought of starting over when success isn't guaranteed, it can be absolutely terrifying. So I want you to do a quick exercise with me. Imagine introducing yourself to someone for the first time and not being able to use your job title at all. What parts of yourself would you highlight? How would you describe yourself? If any of that makes you uncomfortable, you're in the right spot. That's a sign that your identity may be overly fused with your career. The good news, that fusion isn't permanent. In fact, psychological research says that our identities are actually fluid and adaptable throughout our careers and our lives. The first step, and probably one of the hardest, is actually admitting and understanding that the fusion has occurred. There are certain signs to identify it, and we're going to go through those 7 signs now. Your professional title is the first thing you do to introduce yourself. It doesn't matter if you are meeting someone at a networking event or at a party with friends. You lead with your job title. Number 2, you feel personally attacked when your work is criticized. Constructive feedback feels like more of judgment as a person. Weekends and vacations make you anxious. It's like if you're not working, you're worthless, or you should be working, you feel guilty. You struggle to talk about topics that don't have to deal with work. Your comfort zone is firmly in your professional experiences and expertise. Number 5, your self-esteem rises and falls with your professional success. A good day at work, you're happy. A bad day at work, your self-esteem takes a hit. Number 6, and this one might hit home with some of you or a lot of you. You delay your personal achievements in order to achieve your professional ones, whether it is taking that vacation, marriage, kids. Yep, I said this might hit home. And number 7, you cannot identify yourself without your job title. You've simply lost your identity. You don't know where to start or what to say. Because the thought of saying I'm in between roles or I'm changing directions simply terrifies you. If you're nodding along and you have identified with at least three of these, your professional and personal identities have been overly fused. And you're not alone, because a study by the American Psychological Association identified that 58% of women in leadership roles exhibit at least five of these. Now that we understand the psychology behind identity fusion and how to identify the signs, we're going to talk about reconnecting with who you are beyond your job title. I'm going to walk you through 4 powerful exercises that have helped me and hundreds of others rediscover their identities. So, are you ready? If you've been multitasking, let's come back because it's time for exercise number 1. The first exercise we're going to talk about is the value archaeology. And this is looking at what truly matters to you. I'm not talking about what your industry values, but what your core values are. And here's how we're going to do it. First, I want you to think about a moment that made you feel proud, fulfilled, and alive. Now, most importantly, I want this to be a moment that is not in any way related to your professional career. Maybe it was a personal achievement. Maybe it was a connection with someone that you had. Maybe it was something you did, an act of service for someone else. For each moment, I want you to think about, what value was I honoring in this moment? Was it creativity, learning, generosity, adventure? I want you to continue going through this process until you've been able to identify 7 to 10 unique situations and the values they represent. So, again, we're looking at moments that made you feel proud, alive, or fulfilled. Go ahead and pause it here and then come back to me. Now that you've identified these moments and the values that they represent, I want you to look for patterns. Which of these values showed up repeatedly throughout these moments? These are your core values, and they are what guide you regardless of your professional identity. The second exercise is going to be the childhood passion reconnection. And what I want you to do here is I want you to think back to when you were 8 to 12 years old, before a professional identity was really a thought. And I want you to think about what you were drawn to. Maybe you love storytelling. Maybe you loved building things or drawing. Maybe you were a natural born leader and liked to boss people around. That was me. But seriously, these early passions are often what drives our talents and motivates us. They are the things that we do not because of some external reward, but because they bring joy to us. Now, what I'd like you to do is write down 3 to 5 childhood passions that brought you joy. And then ask yourself, do they still bring you joy? And if so, are you still connected with them? And if not, how do you look at reintegrating them back into your life today? Exercise 3 is going to be the legacy reflection. This shifts your focus from your job title to your lasting impression. So imagine that you are 90 years old and you look back on your life. What is it that you want to be most known for, most remembered for? What would make you feel like you lived a full life? What qualities would you want people to remember about you? I mean, think about it. When you hear a eulogy, and not to sound morbid, but it's true, you don't usually hear about their job title. You hear about all the other things that they have done, all of the different activities that they were involved in, all of the different ways that they touched people's lives. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to write a personal impact statement, just a short one, about the impact that you want to leave behind and that you want people to remember you by. Because this really helps create a North Star for your identity and where you want to go. Now, exercise 4 is a different one. And this one is really important because let me put it in terms that most of us understand. Just like you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket, or you don't want to invest all your money in one portfolio, you should not do the same when it comes to your identity. And so, what this exercise does is it helps you come up with a diverse portfolio. I want you to think about all of the things that you are besides your professional title. It could be friend, aunt, mother, grandmother, sister, community member, artist, singer, guitar player, whatever it is that applies to you. Write down all of those things that you are. And then for each of those different roles, I want you to write down what you uniquely bring to each one of those roles, how this role fulfills you, and a specific memory that each role brought you joy or meaning. The goal here is to understand that your portfolio is very diverse. And so when you look at making a career pivot, you just have one small portion that's changing. All of these other roles make up who you are as a whole. So if you didn't pause and go through each one of these exercises with me, I really highly encourage you to spend 30, 45 minutes with yourself going through these exercises throughout the week. Maybe even do one each day. They might seem really simple, but the reality is that they are very transformative and they are very eye-opening when it comes to seeing who you truly are. Not only who you truly are, but also as others in the world see you. Okay, so far we have reconnected with your core values and expanded your identity portfolio. Now that we've done that, what we're going to do is we are going to build a framework that will support you through this transition and any future ones. This framework is going to have three different pillars. It's going to have your impact, your essence, and your growth trajectory. So, pillar one is going to be defining your essence. Your essence is who you are at your core. It's your unique combination of your strengths, values, and perspective. Unlike your job title, your essence is portable in any industry. It is your transferable skill. In order to define your essence, I want you to complete these following sentences. Number one, I am someone who naturally excels at. Number two, I consistently bring blank to any situation. Number three, people count on me for. Number four, I feel most aligned when. The pattern in your answers are what is going to define your essence. Here's an example of one. I am a connector who brings clarity to complex situations through empathetic listening and strategic questioning. Now, that's completely different than saying, I'm a marketing director. Instead, this shows how your essence shows up in the world, not the position that you hold. And the great news about this is your essence applies whether you're a marketing director, a sales VP, or in any other industry. Once you've crafted your essence statement, what I want you to do is I want you to practice it. Next time someone asks you who you are or what you do, start with your essence statement. Don't start with your job title. So, pillar number two is going to be articulating your impact. Your impact describes the consistent value you create regardless of your job title. This focuses on the difference that you make versus the tasks you perform. To define your impact, think about these questions. What problems do I consistently solve for others? What transformation do I help create? What would be missing if I wasn't there? What patterns of contribution appear in different areas of my life? The beauty of an impact statement is that it transcends across industry jargon and specific job functions. It connects your contribution to universal human needs and organizational value. Pillar 3 is going to be defining your growth trajectory. Your growth trajectory focuses on where you're headed, not where you currently are or even where you've been. It's about the future and moving you forward to where you want to be, independent of specific job titles. To define your growth trajectory, consider these following questions. What capabilities am I looking at developing further? What types of challenges energize me versus drain me? What impact do I want to have that I haven't achieved yet? And what would meaningful growth look like for me at this stage of my life? For many women in a career transition, this pillar is particularly freeing. It shifts the focus from past to future possibilities. So when you put all of these different pillars together, your essence, your impact, and your growth trajectory, you have now created a framework that I call your portable identity framework. This is a combination of the value you create, who you are, and most importantly, where you're headed in a way that transcends any job industry. So, I want to remind you that creating this framework does not happen overnight. It takes careful thought, consideration, practice, and actually saying it out loud. But once you actually come up with this framework, it creates a huge amount of stability during a career transition because it's allowing you to focus on, again, where you're going instead of who you were before. It also helps you keep a sense of self even when your external factors are changing. What I'd like to talk about now is how do you look at applying this to your everyday life and situations you're going to encounter during your pivot. In order to do this, I am going to give you some strategies and scripts to apply to 3 different scenarios. Scenario 1 is the networking introduction. And especially if you are in between jobs right now or pivoting, it's even more terrifying. It makes you want to have a panic attack right then and there. So here's your new script that you can utilize. I bring, enter your essence, to organizations that need, enter your impact. Most recently, I've done that as, enter previous role. And now I'm exploring opportunities in, enter your new direction, where I can focus on, and then enter your growth trajectory. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put that sample script into play. And we're going to use the strategic marketing example that we used earlier. So here's an example. I bring strategic clarity to organizations navigating complex challenges. Most recently, I've done that as a marketing director for a tech company, and now I'm exploring opportunities in the healthcare space in order to focus on transformation during rapid change. So that response, it maintains your professional credibility while signaling that you are so much more than your last career title. Scenario 2 is going to be the interview question. When the interviewer asked about your seemingly unrelated background history, you can use the structure. Throughout my career as previous role, I've consistently, your impact, for example, specific achievement. What I'm excited about in this role is the opportunity to bring that same essence to specific challenge that's in the new role, while being able to expand my capabilities in growth trajectory. This approach bridges your past experience to your future role, not just through your transferable skills. All right, got it? Number 3 is the self-doubt moment where you think, should I really be doing this? It's when that imposter syndrome really tries to creep back in. And what I want you to do then is I want you to use this self-talk script. I am not just my former title. I am, enter, essence statement. Throughout my career in life, I have, enter, impact statement. This transition is aligned with my growth. I belong in this new space, not because of the title, but because of who I am and the value I create. Now, this script, I want you to keep somewhere, and I want you to be able to repeat it back to yourself. Repeat it back to yourself every single day, and I want you to own it because you deserve it. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to repeat it back to you one more time. So if you've been multitasking, come back to me because I want you to write the script down and enter your own pillars. Are you ready? I am not just my former title. I am my essence statement. Throughout my career, I have consistently enter impact value. I am not just my title. Enter essence statement. Throughout my career and life, I have consistently enter impact statement. This transition is aligned with my growth trajectory. I belong in this new space, not because of a title, but because of who I am and the value I create. Saying that one again really got me excited. There are power in your words, and the way that you talk about yourself and to yourself have such a major impact that we don't even really realize. Beyond the scripts, there are 3 concrete practices that I want you to look at implementing this week. The first one is the identity check in. Each morning, before you do anything else, I want you to look at connecting with your identity portfolio. Remember the various roles you play, review them, and remember that your value transcends way beyond your professional title. Number 2 is going to be the value-based decision filter. When you look at choices that are presented to you during your transition, I want you to think about what most aligns with your core values rather than which option looks best on my resume or which option has the best title or which option will pay me the most, even though I won't be happy. Let your rediscovered values drive your path. Number 3 is going to be the introduction experiment. And with this experiment, what I want you to look at doing is having a conversation where you introduce yourself to at least one person and do not mention your job title at all. Leave your professional identity completely out of it. Instead, what I want you to talk about are your passions, your values, or your current learning journey. Notice how this feels when you introduce yourself, how it aligns with your passion, your purpose, and what it reveals about your professional identity and your attachment to it. These practical applications will reinforce the inner work that you are doing and make your new identity framework an integral part of how you navigate your career pivot. So before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with 5 actionable takeaways that you're going to be able to implement right away. Number 1 is going to be to complete the values archaeology exercise. Remember, these are your 5 negotiable core values that exist independent of your job. Set aside 30 minutes this week to recall those peak moments and extract the values that they represent, because these values will be your compass during your transition. Number 2 is going to be practicing the 2-minute identity reframing script. When introducing yourself, instead of leading with your title, start with your essence, your impact, and your growth trajectory. This will help you as well as others see that you are so much more than your job title. Number 3 is going to be to start your identity portfolio with 3 roles that you are unrelated to your career. For each role, write down the fulfillment that it brings and why it matters. Keep this portfolio visible and remind yourself of your multi-dimensional self. Number 4 is going to be try the morning mirror affirmation. And what this is I want you to say, I am not what I do. I am who I choose to be. And I want you to say this first thing in the morning, maybe as you're brushing your teeth or even before you start to brush your teeth. And last but not least, number 5, I want you to have one conversation with someone where you do not mention your job title as part of your introduction. Notice what you talk about instead and how it feels. Then, what I want you to do is I want you to journal about that experience afterwards. Remember, separating yourself from your job title is not about denying your professional achievements. It is about recognizing you are so much more than what you do for a living. It's your value as a person, it's your wisdom, it's your compassion, your creativity, your essence. Now, this identity work may feel very vulnerable and, quite frankly, even uncomfortable at first. And that's normal, and it's okay. We are undoing patterns that have been reinforced in our head for decades. But I promise you, on the other side of this identity shift is a freedom that will serve you not only through this career pivot, but through every evolution to come. So, if you found today's episode inspiring or helpful, I would truly appreciate it if you would go ahead and subscribe, tag me in it, share with another phenomenal woman that needs to hear this. And until next week, stay fierce, stay bold, but most importantly, stay unapologetically you.